You can't hear us?
No.
Yeah, leave and come back in. Sometimes that works. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's just redirecting.
I just do on my host page. Yeah, leave and come back in.
Okay, everyone, we're recording and we're live. So if you're not speaking, do you mind muting? Okay, thank you so much. It is July 15th, 2020. This is our department head meeting. We are being streamed live on YouTube. It is being recorded and it'll be placed on YouTube in perpetuity. And at this time, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And I apologize. There was a little bit of background noise, and I'm just going to admit a couple people. Madam Administrator, there's a new phone number that I just admitted. I do not know who it is. I apologize. Ending 5907. Oh,
That is me, Mr.
yep, that's
Dr.
Mr.
DeGraffis.
Rock. I was just putting two and two together.
So I cannot rename that anymore because I gave you all the host stuff.
1 second. Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone for coming. I wanted to start off the meeting by just reiterating, we are still on a discretionary spending freeze. I believe the town administrator is collecting any requests for spending. And at an upcoming Board of Selectmen's meeting, we will be considering those items. And I did speak to the town administrator about it. And the way that she explained it to me was that the round that we did last time was for fiscal year 20 expenditures. And now we should do another round at the beginning of this year for anything that might be really, really needed for fiscal year 21 for your department. And Madam Administrator, was there anything that you wanted to add?
Yes, I do want to just explain the reasoning for this because I think some people just think it's like not necessary. The reason I am trying to clutch every dollar that we possibly can is because life at the state level is just simply not clear. They are facing an $8 billion revenue shortfall. Their projections are pretty grim, and that trickles down to us in the form of local aid. And we don't have a lot of control over Chapter 70 local aid. What happens when that dries up and doesn't reach a certain threshold that they were expecting? So the costs that the schools share will fall to us, and we have really not a lot to say about it. And then we have, of course, our own local aid commitments that we are okay if we get a 10% reduction, because I did run those numbers, but if we don't get a 10% reduction and it's more, that's when we're gonna have more of the problem. And then thinking longer term, the reason for the FY20 money clutch was to store up as much free cash as possible that would potentially fill in any holes that we may find in FY21. But in FY21, we want as much free cash as we possibly can, because FY22 will be detrimental to us regardless of what the economy does. If the economy backs up, we're still going to have a hard time in 2022. And if the economy decreases again and goes more depressed, then we will have even more of a problem. So I just, it's not to be a pain. It's not to provide some extra layer of bureaucracy or micromanage. It's to really just account for every piece of spending that we have. And if it can wait, it should wait. And if it's a true emergency, it'll be granted. There are some things that are just critical expenditures like repairs. But if you're not sure, please do call me, let me know, email me, make the request. I have a whole list put together. My office has a list put together. The Selectmen's office has a list put together. We are participating in this too, and we literally don't buy anything. And I would very much appreciate it if other people abide by this strict rule and understand the reasoning behind it, that it's a little bit more long-term than what you may be forecasting for just a year. Does that make sense, people?
I do have a question about the process, though.
Sure.
I guess this is for you, and perhaps it's for our town accountant and our town treasurer. So let's say a spending, an invoice comes in, right? And or a request for spending comes in, and someone asks, "Can I buy this?" If it is something that falls under the discretionary spending freeze, what is the process for that? Does the town accountant, I'm literally asking because I don't know, does the town accountant just refuse to process that invoice, or to, like, how does this all work? Like, does the town treasurer refuse to pay said invoice? What is the internal process here?
So ideally, what's supposed to happen is before the purchase is made, before the person goes out and buys the thing or the product, that we have a conversation, that person and I have a conversation. And if it's something necessary, like a car part, then, okay, sure. Like a part for the ambulance, yeah, that's going through because we need to run our ambulance. But if it's something like a camera for a computer, I have some follow-up questions. Okay, is that to continue your services remotely? Because that's a thing that we're doing. And then we work that out. And if there is like a reason that's related to COVID-19, we mark that down so that we can track our COVID-19 expenditures. If there's no reason, we respectfully ask for that person to wait. Now, if that person has just gone ahead and ordered the thing, the product, in one case, I did have this person return it. I asked them, can you return it? And they did, and they got their money back and we didn't pay for it. Now, is that person upset because they don't have the product that they deemed that they needed? Of course they are, but they returned it because that's what should happen. Things like facilities, items that need to be fixed, that's also a conversation, and we generally pass those through. And then anything else logs on a list, as you alluded to, and then we bring it to the selectmen. And as you've gone through that process, you know that people make their case for it, you judge why, and you proceed with it. Now that we are in the new fiscal year, I wanted to collect it again to get people started and launched and projecting out for the next 3 to 4 months, because that's what I think is a safe estimate when we will find out for local aid and what's going on at the state. If the person purchases the item, generally it goes through Linda as a bill, and then she's a bit of a watch guard there. And then I won't speak for Chris. I'll let him jump in there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think one way to help document some of these discretionary spending requests in lieu of a purchase order system, because we're not currently using it with the software, is that we come up with a requisition form and it be documented in writing. That way there's no question as to whether or not something's been approved for spending or not. And you folks may want to consider setting a dollar threshold for asking for permission to spend when there's a question as to whether it's discretionary or necessary.
That's a conversation I had with another department head as well.
Madam Administrator, if it's okay, before we get into updates, I want to run this meeting a little differently, but before we get into updates from department heads, if they so choose to give one, I wanted to ask my board members, Selectman Pacheco and Selectman Goulart. Originally, per my conversation with the town administrator, we were thinking to put these requests that the town administrator has gathered on the agenda for the next Wednesday's meeting. And I believe that's the 21st?
22nd.
Thank you. Time flies in the time of coronavirus, unfortunately. So I think that wasn't enough time, because I think what's going to happen is if we don't give people enough time and enough notice that we are collecting these things, I gather some of that you've collected, Madam Administrator, people were unaware you were even collecting them. They were just things that they believe are needed, correct? Okay. So what I'm thinking is, my personal opinion is to give people more time to gather those requests and to think about what they may need for their department that might be quote unquote necessary for fiscal year 21. But I do want to know your opinions on when we might want to conclude the receiving of those requests.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. Are you referring to the next meeting then? I think if there's any that are already been processed, they should be on the agenda for us for next Wednesday. But this is going to be a continuing thing. We voted a while ago on this discretionary freeze on discretionary spending, so everyone should be aware of that, and nobody should be purchasing anything without okay. I see sometimes there may be an emergency situation, and you can deal with that as chairman, but otherwise it should go before the board. And whatever is available for next Wednesday, we should process it.
Can I ask a follow-up before we hear from
Sure.
Selectman Goulart? I just didn't want to get into a situation where we're considering these items every meeting. And I don't think the town administrator, in all fairness, wanted that either. So how do you think as a board we should handle these? If we agree that we may get them on a quote unquote ongoing basis, which I think might happen, just practically things arise during the fiscal year. How do we want to handle these? Do we want to consider these requests once a month at one of our meetings?
Personally, I would prefer it at each meeting. If there's any before us, we should address that at each meeting and not wait for once a month myself, because I think that could end up being a lot of items for one meeting. So I prefer that we spread it over all future meetings until we change our policy.
Selectman Goulart?
I think that anyone wanting to purchase things should follow the direction that Chris mentioned as far as a requisition form. If it is a priority item, it needs to be marked clearly, marked priority, bright red or something. Other stuff that they may want to purchase may not be priorities. It's stuff that they want or need. Priority stuff should come to the Board of Selectmen as soon as possible. I don't think we ought to hold them and do them batches at a time. I think it's better if we maybe institute a line item in the agenda and take care of obviously priority first. It not only that, if we do it by priority, excuse me, as time progresses, and hopefully we know what the state's going to do with our aid, some of those items that weren't priority, we may be able to just release and not have to vote on them as part of discretionary spending. But I agree with Ken, to do a big batch at one meeting, I think that'll be too cumbersome. As a matter of fact, the list that we did do at the last meeting was a long list, even though it wasn't long, but where we're starting out a brand new fiscal year, the list could get quite long. But I do want to see priority stuff every 2 weeks. We may not have other stuff that's not priority, but I think that's what we need to do.
And I'm totally okay with that. Madam Administrator, is that okay with just logistically in terms of getting those things on the agenda? That's okay with you and the administrative team? This is doable?
That's fine. I mean, we're not gonna hunt these down. I think the onus is on the department heads to say, hey, I really need X and here's why. So I love the idea of the requisition form. Chris, if Vadar has a template or anything like that, that'd be great. So we're not starting from scratch. But other than that, no, I have no issue with that. But I want to make sure I understand. We're adding an agenda item we're adding an agenda item each meeting that will say votes on discretionary spending or something along those lines. Is that right?
It could even be its own section, like we have a scheduled appointment section. It could be discretionary spending requests. I think that might have been what Selectman Goulart was alluding to. And then list the items if you want to on the agenda, or that list would be included in the packet. So I'm okay with that. I think that's fine.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
Okay, good. Okay, we got that resolved. Madam Administrator, was there anything else you wanted to add under that or under maybe the reopening, any announcements for reopening or anything due to the pandemic response task force?
I have a lot to say of stuff that's like all over the place. So I know you're gonna run a little differently, but I do have my general announcements of like things going on. But I do want to have feedback on how people feel. We're in our first week of having our doors open to the public. And how's that working? We have tape on the floor, thanks to the Board of Health for coming over and doing that. We have our sanitizer station in the front door upstairs. And I've seen sanitizer outside everybody's counters for public service. So it looks like it's going well. We've had a decent amount and a decent stream of people, but I'm only in one office. So if anybody has any feedback there, I can hear it. And another very important thing for the change of year is to file your payroll change forms for your employees. It's a form that's in accounting, and you should be filing that form that shows the old rate of pay, the new rate of pay, the reason why you're getting the new, or that person's getting the new rate of pay, signed off by the department head and submitted to accounting. And I just wanted to make sure I made that announcement. I know we're a couple weeks in, but please get those in. Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, was that it, Madam Administrator?
That's it for right now. I don't know if you want me to keep on going.
Well, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do the meeting was, rather than call on every department head and ask them to give an update, I felt like if they wanted to speak and give an update that they felt could be useful either for, you know, us or for another department, then they have the right to do that. But I wasn't going to call on any particular department head, but everyone can have the floor if they'd like.
Okay, sorry. Can I still take it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted you to be the first department head.
So we're going to have a change of schedule to the department head meetings. They're going to go back to Wednesdays. So just a heads up, but you'll get an updated calendar for that. But we're keeping the same time of 10 o'clock. The spending freeze is still in place. A reminder that any changes in pay that are not by right in a contract do need to go before the Board of Selectmen. Just a very, an announcement that had happened a couple times, but any change of pay that's not given by right in a contract needs to go before the board for a vote. Town clerk's not here. My other thing, I had a really hard end of year. There was massive overspending. I don't want to beat this to a dead horse, but I think what's most disappointing about it is that most of those expenditures were ones that we could have seen coming. I just want it clear that my expectation, and if this is a wrong one, I need to know, my expectation is that boards and department heads are monitoring their budgets every month when the town accountant sends out those reports. You do need to look at those. In my office and the selectman's office, and I know in other departments, we keep spreadsheets that have the total amount that was allocated at town meeting, and then we kind of monitor how much we're paying going forward, and we're able to see a deficit coming. We're able to prepare and plan much earlier than the last day, the literal last day of the year. There was a lot of scrambling going on. There was a lot of back and forth going on, and a lot of angry faces at the finance committee meeting. We need to, as a whole group of us, really start making sure that we're monitoring those budgets, that we, have a check-in in maybe October, because we traditionally have a fall special town meeting, and we should monitor if we are foreseeing any deficits. I think this year is a very important year to do that, just because of anything. Or if you flag that we have some money left over in an account maybe that you haven't spent because the project never got off the ground, or what have you, for whatever reason, but to really monitor your budgets and to know them inside and out, so that we don't come across these last minute bills. I know sometimes bills come in late. They really don't meet the 6:30 deadline, and I understand that. But if you can anticipate, or if you know of a process that you have out there lingering, just try to keep track of that, because it makes for a very, very chaotic end of year, and not so much fun at the finance committee. I also, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Can I add a point to that? So we were able, I can only speak, actually, I'm not going to speak for the Board of Selectmen, but we did vote, and we did as a board approve the transfer requests for the end of year. However, I voted that way because we had the money to do so. We may not have the money next year we don't know the financial situation that will come from the state in terms of chapter reimbursements. We may not have the money to do those significant end of year transfer requests for next year. So I think everyone should work with the town administrator and with the town accountant just to self-monitor your budgets, especially important budget lines.
And yeah, I have one more thing. It's not a happy thing. I just want it out there and then how to fix it. So we are generally such a great team. When something happens, we all pull together, we all go and do whatever it takes to get the job done. We reference it all the time. It happened in MVP and our core team, and we just all came to the table and got the job done. And for whatever reason, the last couple months, maybe 3 months, I'm not feeling like we're all aware of what the other parts are doing. And I want us to get back on the same page. I want us to feel like that team. I want us to act like that team, and to really just defeat a potential fiscal crisis head on altogether. So, that includes if you come in and you have a problem and people are sharing solutions, don't just shoot them down with no counter. Help us help you, or help us let's work together and come up with some sort of solution. I guess I'm just asking, like, what happened to us? Like, where have we gone wayward? Is anybody else feeling this way? Or is it just me? I don't know, but I'm just feeling a disconnect. And I don't know if it's because we're finally open to the public and maybe we'll get back in our groove, but I'm just feeling very disconnected. And that's all I have to say. I'm sorry. I was so negative today. But...
Okay.
Done to everybody.
I wanted to go to Selectman Goulart and then Selectman Pacheco, if you have anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Mallory just said. I don't feel a disconnect. I feel, well, Board of Selectmen knows that I shared with you and what happened back in 2009 and all that. So this isn't new to me. And you read the memos and you saw the report for the town meeting that was given that time, and how we had to squeak by after we didn't get our final state aid payment. My feeling has been, or my observations have been, since we've been talking about these potential shortages, since the virus hit, since the state has been saying we're short gazillion dollars in revenue and 8 billion short here and whatever. My impression has been, I'll call them the old timers, the people that were here way back that lived through that initial situation, 2009, 2010. I think they kind of buckled down and said, here we go again. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but we got to get through it. And when I say old timers, I'm talking about the people who actually experienced it. And to the people that have come on as town employees since then, I think information has been shared. I think some of the newer employees may have a little bit of anxiety because they haven't had to go through this. And when you face something like this, like that memo that was initially sent out, people didn't get raises other than contractual raises. And our goal was provide services and not lay anybody off. So again, the old timers went through that and know we made it through, and we continued to do services and we didn't lay anybody off. So I think there's anxiety on the part of the people who didn't experience that. And I think really just making them a part of the decision process and assuring them we collectively are all going to work on this, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to do our best to maintain services, and hopefully nobody gets laid off. So I think it's more anxiety as opposed to a disconnect. So I have full confidence in the people, the old timers, and I don't mean age, you guys, the people that went through it way back when, and the newer people. I just want to reassure the newer people, been there, done that. this may be worse than what we experienced in 2009 and 2010. But if we all work together and we all monitor money and things like that, we're going to get through it. So I just encourage you to hang in there and talk about it. Talk to your counterparts, talk to the selectmen, talk to Mallory. And, you know, I'm just reassuring you. I'm feeling that, you know, we're going to make it. I don't have all the answers either, but hang in there.
Madam Administrator?
So I don't know if all that was directed towards me and my comment or everything. I feel like it was directed towards everything. I just want to clarify that my feeling of like us not all revolving in the same motion in the same direction is not all related to COVID. I think we were disrupted because of COVID, but I feel like there's like a communication breakdown, I guess. I feel like there is, I don't know. I wanted it out there that I feel like we're revolving on different speeds. I did live through the recession in a municipal government. I was in West Bridgewater. Obviously, I wasn't a town administrator there, but I do have the experience of going through the recession. I think that was worse than what we're dealing with. So I share a lot of your sentiment there, Selectman Goulart. But I'm not, of course I'm anxious and I'm worried because of the unknown and all that could happen, like all the bad things that could happen. Will they? Probably not, but there's definitely a degree of turmoil. So I won't say I'm not anxious, but my remarks were really on the whole and not so much about our fiscal issues.
Mallory, nothing was directed at you or any person. All I'm saying is I'm looking at an atmosphere. I'm looking at a total atmosphere and how everything that happens, whether it's the virus, the extreme heat and the air conditioning not working properly, that adds to the misery. The public now coming back, that whole situation. And I just want to reassure people, okay? We're going to get through it, you know? And so that's what I'm really talking about.
I think you both saying a version of the same thing. I think we just need to work together. It's been hard on everybody. That's the thing everybody needs to remember, is that it's been difficult for everyone. And so that should be the thing that makes us want to work together and work collaboratively. I should say continue working together and working collaboratively.
Yeah, just to add one other thing, we got to do this day at a time, month at a time. We still look long range, but that's how we got through it the last time. I used to say, hey, we made it through another month and we're still operating and we're still going okay. So that's what we have to do.
And there have definitely been some big instances of collaboration. I think when the clerk and treasurer's office reached out and let us know about the situation with the heat in the office, and we as a board got together at our very next meeting and we agreed to purchase the portable units, and we'll be discussing, I think at our next meeting, possibly awarding a bid for the repair of the actual HVAC system, which I know it's August and some of you are thinking, why are we bothering? But I believe that's also the system that does the heat in the winter. So we don't want to have the complaints of the cold in the winter. We will literally have them year round. So it's best to address it, get it fixed. It's a pretty penny, but we all work together on it. We recognize the need for it. And that's, I think, the spirit that we all need to continue working together in. Selectman Pacheco, before I open it up to department heads who wish to give updates, and I'm literally going to open the floor and everyone can give their update if you so choose. Did you have anything you wanted to add, sir? Or
I just wanted to say that I am an old timer, although I wasn't present during that time as a member of the board. I appreciate both comments from Madam Administrator as well as Mrs. Goulart. That's it.
Thank you. And at this time, and I am checking the chat, so.
There was a question about how to.
So Jonathan Gray wrote in the chat, if you're on the phone and you're not on the computer, you can dial *6 to mute on or off. If you're on the phone, I can also unmute you as well if you are muted. And so at this time, I'm going to stop talking And if you have an update that you'd wish to provide everyone, then at this time, feel free to speak. I'm going to mute you. I think, Mr. Rhines, you're unmuted if you have an update.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Zagrafis. First, I'd just like to, before I give an update, I'd like to thank the Board of Health because the Park and Rec, which I'm no longer the chairman of, I've been working extensively with them in regards to all the phase openings, and I want to thank them. They've done a lot of hard work for us as residents of this town, and my hat is off to these people. Thank you very much, Board of Health. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
Good job.
Go ahead, Dr. Zagrafis, I'm sorry.
Nope, I just said good job, Board of Health. I'm sorry, you have the floor, Mr. Rhines.
The planning board, we are functioning quite well. Our office manager is doing a fantastic job updating the members on a weekly basis. We have a meeting this evening, which will be via Zoom. And I'd like to just put this out there for the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. I think that the Board of Selectmen should really think about passing completely remote participation for people, because that way it gives the residents an opportunity to be able to call in to a meeting and to be able to give their input and that type of thing. And because, you know, certain times you do have members that, you know, they may be hospitalized or something like that in their home, and they just can't have the capabilities or abilities to come out of the house to attend meetings and that type of thing. And that's general for myself. There are times that sometimes I just don't feel like, you know, I really want to move because I've just moved so much during the day. I'm tired, but I'm an old timer, as Selectman Bakigo mentioned, and Selectman Goulart, you know, and again, I have so much appreciation right now for the Board of Health. I just can't say it anymore. I'm sorry to keep saying that, but really, I think we really need to look at that. They've done a fantastic job. Park and Rec wise, I did make the mistake and make some purchases.
Mr. Ryan,
and yes.
I just wanted to add one thing, because I felt like I saw Madam Administrator we were probably going to say the same thing. Remote participation, I believe, is up to your board, like what your board has decided to do. It sounds like your board has chosen to allow remote participation, Mr. Ryan. So my understanding would be that if you are not feeling well, or you are out of town, or you are unable to attend a meeting, or just for whatever reason can't or don't want to, you can remotely participate, it sounds like the Board of Selectmen.
But I just wanted to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Zagrafis, but here's the situation: is that yes, remote participation was approved through this COVID crisis, and has never been voted on, I believe, by the Board of Selectmen in its entirety to move forward to have it completely going forward.
Yes, it did. We did. We voted on that. The Board of Selectmen, I had you vote on that right away because I didn't know how long this was going to last. And so there's a provision in the open meeting law for all of those who don't know to allow boards to meet with remote participation. The caveat is that you have to have a physical quorum present. The only thing that was suspended in the executive order that the governor issued because of COVID-19 was that the physical quorum aspect of that was no longer mandated, and you could do it by participating how we are today, all remotely, as long as you provide or do your best to provide real-time public access. But I had added to the agenda right away the remote participation provision for the Board of Selectmen, and Selectman Zagrafis is correct. Each board votes on that themselves. So if the boards tonight or today want to go forward and vote for remote participation in the traditional sense, which wouldn't be under the governor's order, you are more than welcome to do that. But it is by each board. They set that rule for themselves.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Madam Administrator. I have a meeting tomorrow night via Zoom with the CPC. We're kicking things off for the new year, fiscal year coming up. So I'd like to see if the Board of Selectmen, I will send a notice into your administrative assistants to just to let the residents know that we're accepting applications, application process is now open. We at Park and Rec are going to need everyone's help because we want to do a fully handicapped accessible playground on North Dayton. We need your help, please, because it's a matter of funding going forward in order to do this. And I think that the residents, and especially in that area of town, have been neglected for so long with not a facility for the residents that I think is needed. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Rhines. Mr. Rhines, did you reach
Yes.
out, or do you plan to, I should say, do you plan to reach out to the ADA coordinator and or the ADA commission regarding the disability access to the proposed new North Dayton playground?
Yes, absolutely. They are first on our list of people to reach out to coordinate possible building in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Accountant, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things that I want to bring to folks' attention. For those departments that still have to submit their payroll change forms, so for any reason, if anyone's been granted a contractual increase or has a step increase due to some other contractual obligation because of years of service and whatnot, we still need your payroll change forms. I know that I've been a little slow with the changeover now that we've opened up town hall to the rest of the staff now, but as far as processing your invoices and payroll, our preference now is to see original source documents rather than have things mailed electronically. If you are choosing to mail or to send things to my attention and to Linda's attention electronically, please follow up with the hard copies of invoices and payroll. We'd like to see your timesheets now. I know I kind of put a relaxation on the actual timesheets. I was more than satisfied with the payroll cover sheets. It covers the time anyway. For those departments that are already providing the timesheets, just continue to do so. Now that it's the end of the fiscal year and budgets are tight, I'm kind of going to reiterate something that Mallory had indicated relative to your budgets, but I got to get your, if you know that you've got invoices coming and it's related to fiscal 20, you ordered something June 15th or later and you haven't seen an invoice yet, put your encumbrance requests in now before I close those books. The other thing too, there is a form that I believe that the former town accountant used to have folks sign for those of you that have boards that have to authorize invoices and whatnot. I'd like you to submit revised or updated authorization forms for payment of bills and payment of payroll. I'd like to know who's supposed to be signing, especially if there's been any reorganization in your boards or your committees. Beyond that, I hope that, so basically the monthly budget reports that I'm providing everybody, it's a statutory requirement. I basically provide it in summary to you rather than in detail by invoice. If it's your preference to have that, please ask. Don't wait for me to provide you a report at the end of the month to figure out that you've got a problem. Help's a two-way street. I can't help you if you don't ask, and I can't get your help if I don't ask. So I'm begging you to take a look at this stuff seriously, because it takes an awful lot of effort on my part to provide you those reports. That's more of a software thing and an operator thing than it is anything else right now. But again, I appreciate the help. Things may have been done differently here in the past. I'm going to trust that everybody can manage their budgets on their own. But again, if you need help, ask. If you don't ask, it makes my job that much more difficult, and it doesn't make for a pleasant year-end experience. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. I echo those sentiments. And when I made my comments regarding perhaps some end of the year transfer requests next year, I literally mean we may not have the money to do them. I'm not just saying we're not going to approve them. We were able to do them this year. We were fortunate. And so this should be the wake-up call for department heads for next year, that we're going to do really some self-monitoring of your own budget lines and budgets. So That being said, does anyone else want to chime in? Again, it's just an open floor. I have a hard stop at 11 a.m. I can probably do a few minutes past that. Anyone want to give an update?
So I have an update. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Hi. This is
Hi. So Carrie with the planning board, obviously. So we actually have a request with Long Built Homes tonight because Long Built Homes is seeking to purchase Hunter's Hill. So just to put everyone on notice for that. As we know, Hunter's Hill has been kind of stagnant for a really long time. So it looks like we have a potential buyer. So we're going to see, everything is preliminary. So we are anxious to see what they have to offer. So hopefully progress. The other thing is yesterday we received and was installed our printer, our
the copier.
our plan printer.
Nice.
So next week we will be having a training. So I will be reaching out to various departments of those that are interested, especially like the assessor's office, the building department, various departments who would be interested in the training on that. I had one question about the remote participation, Mallory, on that. Are we still acting under the governor's order for COVID or for the remote participation, or are we moving forward under the original?
The executive order still exists. So you
Okay.
can still operate totally in Zoom like we are today.
Okay.
If you have a fit, like going forward, like say tomorrow coronavirus is gone and life goes back to what it was. You as a board can vote to accept the provisions of remote participation in the open meeting law, the whole section. You just vote. And then you need a physical quorum present, but a member could participate via Zoom or
I
two
see.
members in your case. You would need 3 individuals physically present together in a room, and then 2 people could be remotely participating. And then there's some rules with that, like they have to say that, you know, where they are and whatever, but
Okay. But as it currently stands, we're still working under the executive order for the remote participation.
You can all work remotely. You do not need the physical quorum.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. So I think what the planning board and what I would suggest at our next meeting is that we'll do an official vote for the remote participation in anticipation of someday COVID going away.
And then there's your vote forever. You're good.
Right.
You've done it.
Okay. Then as far as the payroll change form, that does not apply to union employees once union contracts are ratified. But does that also take place with any of my union my planning board members if
Payroll change forms apply to everybody regardless. Payroll change forms are for anybody who ever has a pay change for any reason. What I had mentioned that wasn't what I had mentioned about the by right. So the example I'll use is the fire department. Once a firefighter reaches a certain amount of credits or credit hours, they by right get a increase in their pay for educational incentive. It's in their contract. So selectmen have essentially already agreed to that because they agreed to the contract. And so that would require the chief to put in a payroll change form for that individual, but it wouldn't need to go before the board of selectmen because it's allowed by right. But if somebody was being, added in, so a non-union person, by the way, like for example, if a non-union person was getting a pay increase, that would need to be a vote by the board of selectmen.
I see. Okay.
All right,
And
so
go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was a question I was going to ask because we have an administrative assistant for the CPC, and right now, since there's no union contract signed, that pay would stay the same and they would be reimbursed or retroactively paid at a later date, correct?
Why would it be retroactive? If the CPC, so she's a CPC employee, if she asks for an increase and the CPC agrees, you vote on it as a CPC, and then you forward it up to the Board of Selectmen and they vote on a wage increase.
Okay, because always, in the past, it's always been that since she is a non-union employee and she is not under the contract, that she's always received the 2%. So that 2% would still be included in her pay, because we're gonna meet tomorrow night and she wants to be paid. So we're gonna add that 2% pay in, or is that, am I confusing everyone by saying that?
You're not
So
confusing
my
me,
question-
I follow it, but you have to take a vote to increase her pay, and then that vote has to be given an approval by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Nobody just gets it.
Mr. Rhines, it sounds like
Yes,
your board would need to vote, and then you can send the Board of Selectmen, if that gets approved by your board, send like a letter documenting that to the board so we can get that on an agenda, okay?
okay, thank you very much, Chairman.
You're welcome. Mrs. Easterday, I did have a question about the purchasing of Hunter's Hill.
Yes.
So I know that that project was stagnant. I believe where it was left off was they wanted to build just like a septic system instead of like an entire big wastewater treatment. Is that the situation? Okay. Does the new company that's going to purchase it, if they do and everything goes through, do they have to do that in order to continue purchasing? In other words, the plans don't actually change?
So when I spoke to the potential buyer, I did say, you are aware that you have to put in a new sewer treatment plant? And they said, oh, yes, they had informed me that they were fully aware. And Todd, you can chime in.
Mr. Pillen.
Todd, you can chime in. They said they've been in discussion with the Board of Health. I don't know if they have or not, but they said that they were fully aware that they do have to build a sewer treatment plant before they can do any further building on any further houses to be built on the within the development. They said they were fully aware and they were willing to take that on. So.
Well, that's not the way they left it with me. Right now,
okay.
they have 31 houses on that 5,000 gallon a day septic system. It's a DEP permit, and it's required that they are supposed to be putting in the wastewater treatment plant, because when the whole project is done with all the houses and the golf course and all that, it's supposed to be over 10,000 gallons a day. They went to DEP, and DEP allowing them to build another 30 houses to take them up to 9,999 gallons a day on a septic system. It's as soon as they build the 62nd house is when they're going to need the wastewater treatment plant. And that's where we've left it off with them, but I haven't talked to them in months.
Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to propose tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping us updated on this.
Yes. And then that's about it. We do have a special hearing for a modification tonight for a retreat lot. Just to move the location of a house. That'll be at the determination of the board, whether that goes through. And then, so that's about it.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Easterday. Yeah, Mr. Pilling?
I'll be brief. So the mood that everybody else is kind of talking about here, I think a lot of it is aggravation. And I will say that it's also over here. This has been going on for a really long time. And everywhere you go, you see different responses. You see some people wearing masks, some people not wearing masks, some groups meeting under a pavilion or out in the yard. And it seems to be different. Part of the problem is the governor is issuing written guidance, and then there's verbal guidance that's different from what was written. CDC is different from World Health Organization, is different from DPH. So there's a lot of confusion, and it's annoying. Some people are at work, some people are at home, some people have to wear masks, some don't. So it's been very confusing, and I think that's wearing on a lot of people too. And this comes into these field use forms that people want to use spaces for meetings and such. And right now, Tim Rhines is sending everybody to come to the Board of Health to make sure we can do the event before they even take it any further. But every event is different on where they are and how we handle it. And so encourage everybody to send them to us. Everybody's been very cooperative with us. There is a field use form, which the one online is a little out of date, and Tim's working on getting the new one online. But everybody seems to be pretty cooperative. I do have a lot of arguments with people going, why does my first baseman have to wear a mask when we're playing baseball? And we spent a lot of time talking to them. Dayton Baseball League did get a written warning from me because they were not following the protocols. So they get 3 more fines and then they get shut down. So it's little things like that. I will also throw out that in Massachusetts, we've also had our first mosquito with Triple E and our first mosquito with West Nile virus. So it's going to be very shortly here. We're going to be shutting down all outdoor events after that. So,
Mr. Pilling?
and the only other thing is our perk review agent, only paid for by the Board of Health. And during the FinCom process, it said it was going to go over to the Conservation Commission, but apparently that line item is not in the conservation budget. So right now there's a gap for paying the perk.
Good, how do you
See if we can get that resolved. It doesn't have to be right now, just something to get an answer for. And that's all I have.
Mr. Pilling, the audio was a little bit poor during the conservation perk agent. I think what I heard was it's in the Board of Health line, but it's not in the conservation budget.
Well, it was in the Board of Health. We always paid it. But during the whole process of the budget this year, they said it shouldn't be in the Board of Health, it should be in conservation, and it was supposed to be moved, but apparently it didn't show up in conservation yet.
Madam Administrator?
It was deducted from the Board of Health budget, but never put into the conservation budget for the Finance Committee. You as a Board of Selectmen did vote on that. I remember Selectman Goulart making that motion to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it went to town meeting, it was the Finance Committee recommendation, it never went in. So yes, let's flag that line.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Pilling. That's a good point. We'll get that fixed.
That's all I have.
I wanted to ask you, was there anything, so I know the Board of Health sort of has to be the face of the town's response or the town's interaction with the public in relationship to the pandemic in terms of like enforcing, the guidelines. Like you said that you had to issue a warning to the softball league. I did want to let you know that they took that very seriously and they put out like an urgent message to all the parents that have kids in the league, that how important it is to follow those guidelines. So I just wanted to let you know that it wasn't a situation where they thought you guys were the bad guys. They totally understood, and they're trying to make sure everyone behaves appropriately and follows the appropriate guidelines. But from the Board of Health's perspective, is there any sort of support or anything that the Board of Health needs from the town in order to continue, keeping up compliance, I guess, with CDC guidelines during this time?
No, I don't think so. I do want to say thank you to Tim Ryan for all his compliments, but we couldn't be doing this without the full support of the highway department, the police department, the fire department, the park and rec, everybody in town hall. Like it's all going the way it's supposed to go. And we couldn't do it without the help and support that we have. And we have that right now. And right now I don't need anything from anybody to keep maintaining what we've got. So thank you.
Thank you. And you'll, Madam Administrator, you'll work with Mr. Pilling on that oversight on the conservation perk agent. Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick update, since it reminded me when I heard Kerry talk about Hunters Hill. Last night I attended the ZBA meeting. The Strawberry Hills project, the public hearing has been continued to the August the 13th. That's probably going to be, I'll call it the wrap-up night. Last night, the Stormwater Committee letter that withdrew its request of the ZBA to deny a whole bunch of sections, that went through. I mean, they didn't vote, but the Stormwater Committee has withdrawn all except 3 areas. And one area is the stormwater fee. I don't think we're going to get that. The next one was reference to being invited to make inspections. And I made it clear we don't need invitations. And Attorney Mitchell reiterated that. And there will be language that indicates because of the many hats that the Stormwater Committee members wear, they can go into that project anytime to do inspections. So that will be in there. And then the last item was, there are 2 items that were listed under the planning board that deal with stormwater. And the stormwater committee sent a separate letter asking permission to weigh in on those. So those 2 items I will bring up at the stormwater committee meeting this Thursday, and we will send a written response back to the ZBA. I would say the ZBA is amenable to the concerns that we've raised, and we just need to put this in some written format so that these would be, I'll call them modifications to decisions that the ZBA will make, but that will provide the town through the stormwater committee the kind of oversight we're looking for. So that's where Strawberry Fields is right now.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. And you reminded me, and we must have telepathically synced up because we split up last night, Selectman Goulart. I went to school committee and you went to ZBA, which were sort of at the same time. I don't have an update on school committee other than they did vote. As you know, at our town meeting, we had voted on a number that was slightly less than what the assessment was from the district, or the suggested assessment. Rather than them voting last night on sticking by their higher suggested assessment number, which would have prompted us to probably have to have another town meeting, they decided to approve the lower number. So we're in sync and we don't have to do another town meeting. It looks like we're done on our end in terms of the town of Dayton. So that was good.
Okay, and one other thing I'll mention, yesterday afternoon, the school department's town report arrived. Mrs. Brady got it, and she printed out the written reports that I'm looking at. The financial stuff was still coming in, but now that we have that information, we should be able to publish a supplement and get it out to the public, because obviously it didn't arrive in time for the deadline we had for our annual town report, but we got something yesterday, so things are looking up.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. Is there anyone else who wanted to give an update to the team? You're muted, Madam Administrator.
I'm sorry. Jeff Cluden has the hand up sign.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, I was wondering what that was. Mr. Clunan, let me unmute you. Mr. Clunan,
Can you hear me?
Unmute.
Hello.
Hi, you have the floor,
Hi,
sir.
how are you?
Good.
So we had a busy month. We've issued a full water ban. Southeastern Mass is not in drought conditions, but I don't care what anyone says. We have not received the rain that we normally receive in Dayton. It just seems to miss us every time. So we're in a full ban due to, our water usage was just getting out of control, and we couldn't keep up. And the condition of our wells we're approximately 1.5 feet lower than we were last year on each well at this time period last year. So our condition is not great. And COVID-19 definitely had something to do with that, considering we pumped, I think it was almost 12 million gallons more through June than we've pumped the previous year. So we're not in crisis mode, but there was a crisis mode for it was end of June, where I was calling the chief to say, if you have a fire, you need to call me ASAP so I can turn on every interconnection we have. It was getting dangerous. And so we issued a full water ban. And we also issued a moratorium on providing service connections, which I will get out to all the board members that need it. It's my opinion, and it's our board's opinion, that we just do not have the water supply to support much more growth for the town. So with that, we are working with our engineers to find more water. And it's not as simple as people say on Facebook. You just buy it from another town. It's not that simple.
We believe
they sell it for a certain, They sell it for one price. We sell it for another. We lose a lot of money. We're in trouble. So and the chemicals don't necessarily mix well. So there's a big, there's studies you have to do. I don't want to end up like in jail, like some people did in Flint, Michigan, where that just ended up like a disaster. So I want to do this right. And like I said, it's not as easy as just turning on Somerset or Taunton. Not that simple. So we're working with Somerset to see if we can maybe purchase the well or lease it. There's a meeting we're going to have with them. And as far as our well conditions, it's far below where we were last year, and we were not in great shape last year. So we've tried to slow things down. We are, but there are people out there still irrigating. We do go out at night and check them. And I know it hasn't made people happy, but we need to provide fire protection, and we have millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of wells that we don't want to see go bad. So that's why we did it. And as far as Hunter's Hill goes, I've talked to Long Built Homes, and I've expressed my concerns with the lack of. We're going to find out if they have adequate fire protection up there. I suspect they do not. And so there may have to be a loop tied in, which is not simple because you're on a hill. So just providing a loop may not help with their fire protection. They may need pumps. There's a lot they're going to have to do quite a bit of engineering. So the chief and I are going to have to work on that. And I don't know, that's about it.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Clunan, about water use? So if, let's say a resident isn't complying with the ban,
yes.
As the district, do you know exactly which house it is?
We only know, like, if somebody calls me and tells me that somebody is using irrigation, then I have to send my employee. I want them to verify it. I just don't want to take anyone's word for it. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing is we have the employees during the day, they drive around. If they see somebody, they write it down. Mm-hmm. And then I can send them out at night when most people realize that we're not out there, which we are now, because, and then we'll verify it. We find the address. If they have a well, then good for you. You obviously don't get a fine or a warning. Mm-hmm. But that's how we're doing it. We have to verify it. An employee needs to verify it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What is the status? Can I water my vegetable garden?
Of course. Yes. Plants, vegetables, of course.
And what happens if I'm putting in the fall, I'm putting in a new lawn in part of my yard? Can I water that?
Yep. I'm hoping to have some kind of provision set in place for the fall. I hope our well conditions are better. So I'm really hoping that by September we can maybe lift this, but I can't guarantee anything. I'm gonna have to talk to commissioners about people who are, because that is the greatest time to put a new lawn in and you need to water it. Yeah. So that's a conversation I need to have with the commissioners. So I'll definitely get back to you on that. No problem.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure, Selectman Goulart.
Jeff, if you were able to access an existing Somerset well, would it require much work or treatment to connect it up to the Dayton supply? That's question one. And question two is long-term. With your engineers looking for new supplies of water, are you going to have them take a look at the property that the town acquired, the western half of the Segregansett River watershed, I'll call it?
Yes and yes. Yes, Brook Street is that's a great source of water, the Somerset source. They do not use it. Actually, they dump 150 gallons a minute into the ground every single day. So we're we're trying. You know, it's hard to get a source from another town because you covet it, and it's, you know, it's hard giving things away like that. But the cost, if we were to build Brook Street today, it would cost us probably roughly $4 to $5 million. So for us to purchase that, I mean, they're not going to give it away. And the simplest solution is what you were saying is, yes, all we'll need to do is add, you know, chlorine and caustic, and we can pump that to our system. That's how simple that would be. Very, very simple. And I've already talked to the DEP about it, and I just need to get a little maybe more political with it. So that is an easy one. And as far as the land you have, I need to see a map and just check it out and give it to my engineers to make sure we have the 400-foot buffer. We did Cedar 1, which is it's going bad on us. We're getting approximately 40 gallons a minute out of it now. We were able to drill 70 feet behind it, and we got 300 gallons a minute, even though we're only permitted for 119. So we're going to be replacing Cedar 1. It will help, but our treatment plant can only do so much. So that we really need to find an external source of water to provide the town, or we need to change our treatment technique, and we still need to find more water. So it's not great, to say the least.
Did you want to add something to that, Madam Administrator?
It's actually a question spurred by that discussion, and the question is for Tom Ferry. Tom, we, for everybody who doesn't know, Tom and I have been working on an MVP action grant application about the Segregated River, and we've also been doing some work, well, I haven't been doing it, but Serpent has been doing some work about the culverts and studying that area. Tom, would anything that those two programs have give any sort of credence as to why the water department is having these kinds of issues, or no? Is that like a link for them, or?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Mr. Clunan?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for coming in. If we could have another update on this, if you have one next month at our next department meeting, that would be awesome. I think everybody.
Of course. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Police Chief.
Yes, you have the floor, Chief.
Just to let everybody know, last Friday, Tyler Hazel graduated from the Cape Cod Police Academy. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. They only allowed 2 people there. So he graduated Friday. He started today, and I think he's going to be a great asset to this police department, and I welcome him aboard.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Will you let him know we all said congrats?
I will.
Thank you, Chief.
He was sworn in today, just FYI. He and Steve Ferreira came in, and that's who I was waving to earlier. So
Oh, I
he's
saw
all
that.
ready to go.
Fabulous.
Yeah, he'll complete. He's going to now start with the FTO guys. He'll ride with the FTO training officers for a little bit, and then he should be good to go.
Awesome. That's good news. Love good news. Does anybody have anything else? Any other department heads? I just wanted to remind everyone, and I'm literally doing this for myself and for my colleagues as well, because we wear a lot of other hats. Don't forget to get sworn in. I need to come there today to do that. So if you are on any other committees, like in a volunteer capacity, just don't forget to get sworn in before you take any votes. So that would be that. Selectman Pacheco, Selectman Goulart, did you have anything else, or Madam Administrator, before we adjourn?
I just want to say, I saw Woody yesterday. I think most of you know Woody has some serious health problems. I stopped by his house so he could sign the plans for Miller's Lane. By the way, that's all done. It's recorded. Thank goodness. But anyhow, Woody looked pretty good. He said he felt pretty good. Obviously, he's got a long road ahead of him, but I felt pretty good when I saw him yesterday, so I just passed that on. Thoughts and prayers to Woody.
Absolutely. Thank you. I actually did not know, but definitely keep him in our thoughts and prayers. He serves the town in a lot of different capacities, sewer commission, planning board. And so a lot of people are relying on him and wishing him the best. And I'm one of them. So thank you for that, Selectman Goulart. Madam Administrator?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, then I will entertain motions to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion passes. Everyone have a wonderful day. Stay safe, please.